What's up guys, the Strong Boys 19 here and welcome to a new album review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the latest album from Scotland-based atmospheric black metal band Saor entitled Origins. Now this is Saor's fifth studio album. This is the record label of Season of Mist being involved with the release of this record, and this is a band that is basically a one-man band created by the maestro himself, being Andy Marshall. I really enjoy a lot onto the differences on presentation and tones into the classic genre of black metal, but I do admire the significance and purpose on what the whole genre's recognition has been about, and I did discover this one-man band since the early 2010s with a very consistent discography, and I was so impressed by the album of Aura back in 2013. But then over time into the later albums, this is a band that has been one of my personal favorites in this style and tradition of black metal, and it does take me back into another band like Caladan Brood, for example, with the phenomenal album of Echoes of Battle. So I was really interested, yet still surprised, that this one-man band decides to come back and release this new album here. When I did discover this album for the first time, I will have to be brutally honest to say that this is absolutely one of my potential new high favorite albums of 22, and I was just in awe by how amazing tones to production and the overall influences that were all very strong here. And I will have to say that this is definitely one of my higher favorite albums into this band's discography. Call of the Carnix opens things on a slow drone on the minor key, with lead guitar work alongside these marching drums to continue the mellow tempo as it comes in more and more, various increases of the volume. Then the whole sound of the music became very tight, and the music does deliver a lot of the goods on melody and a lot of action. Lower vocals sounded very, very strong on here as you hear the higher vocal notes into the background, and as well as onto the distorting lower register onto the growls. These triplet style playing styles does make it like a bit of a heavy metal tradition alongside these chugging riffs and soloing, because there's so much dramatic yet passionate stuff going on into this track, as it is incredibly adventurous, because I really do dig so much into this track already, involving the double bass pedaling and a lot of atmosphere, which opens things in a brilliant way to start this album off. The next track, onto Fallen, which is one of my other higher favorites on this record, fire camping sounds to make some different set of ambience, and then these bashful percussive sounds do come in along with the rhythm adrenaline, and as the music does begin, that was standing out with strong delivery and various riffs to build a melodic arrangement and some more chanting, which works very, very well, because this type of sound on this track became very dark and much more gloomier than the previous track. And there's a bit more variety going on into this song as it does expand into this big piece, and the drums do sound very versatile, the vocals were great, so this is a really big presentation. One of the other strongest tracks is one of the highlights of the Ancient Ones. The flute and clean tones into the beginning were absolutely beautiful, and it does present a mellow sound, but then these guitar riffs blare out with so much strength and separate dynamics as the structure goes into a lot onto these wonderful progressions and arpeggios, and I love the attachment onto these vocal notes and guitar notes that were connected together at some points later into the track. Then these occasional blast beats do burst through very aggressively. This is incredibly well crafted, as it sounds so precise and full of these influences that were mashed in all into this fantastic direction of a track. The other highlight on the album is Aurora. The track begins this awesome, fantastic drumming rhythm, and the bass follows it at the same time. Chaotic drumming patterns onto this track. There's a lot of groove into this one. There's some more brutality, chemistries that makes this particular track much more intense and brooding, especially onto the guitars that were pummeling all at once. The acoustic guitars do come in at various small little tidbits, harmonic registers. The keyboards were becoming really consistent into this piece. And I will have to say that out of all of these tracks here, this is the one that I will say is the most progressive movement. Beyond the Wall begins things such an aggressive part to the max right from the start. These constant blast beats to fast alternate picking and the interaction on the vocals that sound really glorious. And when the tempo does eventually slow down, they do come into more lead guitar lines as they sounded really confident, and later parts into the track weirdly makes me think on a bit of like an Amon Amarth inspirational type of composition. Because of the advanced, more complex alternate picking style, there's lots of energy, which makes it so melancholic but wondrous, adding in from one section to another. The last track onto the title track, Origins, these guitars and drums into the start sound really upbeat and weirdly and unexpectedly kind of folky. It sounded pretty jolly, and alongside the heavy, rich, amplified production, they just sound really incredible. Then at some point after the beginning, there was a lot of tension and lots of these menacing vibes, violent oomps, but it does follow alongside with more keyboards. The soloing to these acoustic balanced playings makes this a growing climactic finale that finishes the album just as stupendously. Origins as a record really did surprise me, from how beautiful it sounds to how versatile it was crafting these numerous aspects. And I'll have to say that this production is top-notch quality. The drums sounded really biting, the guitars were crisp, and as well as the huge bass, the keyboards with the textures and ambience makes it just as touching. The vocals were fantastic. What could I personally really say about Origins? But other than that, this is definitely one of the albums, especially into this genre of atmospheric black metal, that I will recommend for anyone who wants to get into the band, and as well as the earlier albums into the discography of Saor's music. With all of these words being said, I will have to say I will love this album more and more when I will blast this from beginning to end. Definitely seek this album out for yourself. Let me know what you think of this album in the comments down below. I'm going to give Origins by Saor a 9 out of 10. Not a lot of albums would really come across this really high rating, although there were various other albums that I really enjoyed to then eventually be loving more over time. This album to be released is a one-of-a-kind record that makes this personally one of Saor's best albums in a long time. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.